I'd like to welcome in now retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery. Admiral, thank you so much for your time. So as we just heard from Robert there, as of right now, this ceasefire does seem to be holding. There were certainly some concerns earlier this morning. The president wasn't happy. There were accusations of both sides really breaking it. But is that how many of these types of agreements kind of begin?
Well, yeah, usually, ceasefires are not perfectly executed military evolutions. There's usually a little bit of extra on each side. But I will say Israel got a little taste of President Trump, the taste that Ukraine gets, which is that, in theory, your ally, your partner in something appears to be almost as critical as of you as the democracy as he is of the autocracy that really started this problem. So, if I were Israel, I'd be a little nervous. But on the other hand, we'll have to see what happens in the next 24 hours. If the next 24 hours are calm, then I think we're on track for a potential ceasefire negotiations.
Yeah, and certainly so many people hoping for that. I'd like to listen to a bit more of what President Trump said earlier today.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program? Well, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone.
All right, Admiral, I do want to talk more about that. But first, if this agreement, let's say, in the next 24 hours does not hold, what would that mean? What could that look like?
Thanks. Sorry, I had to laugh there for a second. I'm not sure the president understands how nighttime targeting works, but it was a perfect night for targeting. Listen, I think the most important thing here is that the president wins the peace with the same skill that the Israeli Defense Forces and, as he pointed out, the U.S. military, won the war making there. He really does, as your previous correspondent said, he has to ensure that there's no enrichment, no reprocessing, no strategic missiles, really a full dismantlement. And really, he should hold off any sanctions relief until he gets all of those concessions from the Iranians. He has to really drive a tough bargain on behalf of democracies to ensure this nuclear program does go away. Because while that one site, Fordow, is buried, he's absolutely right. They were working at 12 other sites, some of which have been attacked hard and some of which have not.
And Admiral, we still don't have confirmation of the extent of the damage from those U.S. strikes. We just heard from State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce. She was asked about it directly. She basically said, the president knows better than I, knows better than any of us. He'll be the one to provide that information. So until we know for sure, what do you think are Iran's capabilities at this point? And will we ever know for sure exactly what they are capable of?
Again, I think your correspondent did a great job describing it. It's an issue of nuclear program and ballistic missile programs. And for sure, the Israelis set back the ballistic missile development program years. And the question now is, did we set back the nuclear program years or even more, closing in on a half a decade? And the answer is potentially yes, because that Fordow strike was significant. I think the president's right. We're going to find out there's a lot of damage there. The two MOPS, massive ordnance penetrators, onto Natanz were also helpful on top of the 7 days of Israeli strikes at Natanz. And then the Esfahan Tomahawk strikes on top of the Israeli strikes over almost a week. I think when you add those three up, those are the three largest facilities. They were significantly damaged. Again, there are other facilities. There is some reputed or rumored other underground areas. So we do have to have a strong negotiating position that forces the Iranians to renounce the nuclear program.
Yeah, and Admiral, as you're speaking there, taking a live look at The Hague, Netherlands, obviously President Trump there for this year's NATO summit. And, we have tens of thousands of our U.S. troops who are in the Middle East. Yesterday there was a lot of concerns when we saw Israel with those strikes over Qatar. How do we ensure our troops are safe?
Yeah, you're right. There's 40,000 plus troops. I think the ones at sea, the nearly 15,000 out at sea, are in pretty good shape. They're close to Aegis destroyers that can defend them against anything. What worries me are our airfields, and really worries me are our troops on the ground away from airfields. So in Iraq, in Syria, in some of the other areas. There are cruise missile and ballistic missile threats, but also for our troops in Iraq and Syria, mortar and rocket threats from Iranian IRGC proxies. So those what worry me the most, as you show on your map there, the 2,500 in Iraq. There's unstated, but about 1,000 in Syria. Those are the forces I think are most at risk from an Iranian attack that they deny was their responsibility.
My last question for you, Admiral. I mean, do you think at this point that we have this agreement, albeit fragile, is there still a path to peace here in addition to the ceasefire? And if so, I mean, how significant is that to President Trump's legacy?
Well, yes, there is a path. I think that if he, as I said, if he negotiates as strong as Prime Minister Netanyahu and he fought, then they'll be in good shape. I mean, but they've got to keep the pedal to the metal, so to speak, on this and push the Iranians into the appropriate position. If that happens, there's a long-term, there's a path to peace here, I think. But if they don't, Israel will have to begin to strike again.
All right, retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, coming up,